On one hand, I wonder if my instant death ability should be renamed My Little Serial Killer Can't Make This Much Sense, because on one hand, I can't take this show seriously at all, but then on the other hand, as I watch an episode like episode 2, I'm just like, you know what? His logic of who he kills, or his idea of trying to impose these rules so he just doesn't go around killing anyone who annoys him, makes sense. But then on the other hand, I remember that, you know what? If we really look at episode 1, I'm pretty sure the only reason this girl is alive is because he liked her chest. And I don't think that's an overreaction. I think his admitting of last week pretty much says as such. And there's just such a odd charm about a show that can so casually just go from literally a dozen people, like a dozen bandits getting killed, to them checking into a hotel and they don't even bat an eye. Like, you're usually used to, at least, like, if you have what should be the psychotic, murderous character, the character around them is usually like pretty normal, pretty fearful because like this is a scary situation, whether because of the situation they're in or the person that's kind of protecting them might end up hurting them someday. So they're very visibly concerned. Yet this girl's just like, hey, do you want to kill those guys? He's like, bro, I don't want to kill those guys. If I just kill everyone who annoys me, then I'm just going to be a psychopath. She's like, yeah, but I mean, they did try to hurt us. And I'm just like, okay. This MC's gonna be completely left unchecked. The only one who will determine who does or does not die will be him and him alone, because even if someone did try to correct him and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't go this hard, I don't think anything's gonna persuade him. He has his logic, he has his morals, whatever they are, but holy shit, just casually going from, oh, you die? I wonder if I shoot you in the foot. Okay, what about your eyeballs? Oh, I can torture you, but I don't want to torture you. I don't want to be a sick bastard, but I guess it's good to know for the future. What a wild show. One Punch Man of the Isekai medium. I want more. Full live reaction episode 2 over on my Patreon. If you would like to see my full uncut thoughts, they're over there if you're interested. Now, this was a good episode. I think if I was to like say, was this better or worse than episode 1, it's probably about the same. I think it had the same enjoyment factor. If anything, we see a lot more about the world in this episode, so maybe you could give the edge to episode 2. But I mean, I do like the fact that he's not just like emotionless in the way that he has no feelings, he has no passions, no desires. I mean, he very much seems like, if you remove the idea that he's killed like a couple dozen people at this point, just look at him as a character. He seems like a pretty normal, like high school type student. He's just very obsessed with his video games and he likes the female body. Like, he doesn't seem like a perverted character. He doesn't seem like an edgelord. He feels pretty normal. And honestly, some of his remarks kind of crack me up with the way his VA performs these lines. But then when you actually look at the full picture, it's like, okay, someone tries to kill you, you kill them. Someone tries to jump you, okay, well, I mean, let's test our ability. Let's learn the limitations of our instant death magic. And the fact that rather than having a female who's just like, oh, I'm gonna be super scared of you, this show's silly as hell. And I think everyone should accept the fact that it's almost a parody of the isekai medium with the most overpowered character that might have ever existed in anime. It's still up in the air about what is his limitations. As far as we can tell, anything can die. I think the vampire girl probably is going to be an interesting test because she apparently can't die. She, I mean, got obliterated, or should have been obliterated into nothing, and she came back. And based on her comments, I don't think death would be something that bothers her too much because she's probably been alive for so long. So if he can kill something that is seemingly immortal, I think that will definitely seal the deal. But you can make the argument, maybe we need to see him kill a god. Maybe we need to see him kill a universe. Who the hell knows what he needs to do to really seal that in for the majority? But I think the idea that it's an automated defense that will kill you, it's whatever he does. I mean, at the very end, or at least near the end of the episode, when there was 2 left, it was the girl who decided to screw them over, and then kind of like the leader of the bandit group, or one of them, they ran off and then they died afterwards. I'm not sure if that, like, at first I was like, oh, I wonder if there's like a limitation of how much per day he can do. It does seem more like he did like a, hey, die 10 seconds from now sort of a thing, but maybe I'm mistaken. But either way, they all ended up dying, and a bunch of guards came in being like, hey, bro, what's going on? Them thinking that he just knocked all them out was like, wait a second, they're all not breathing. And I'm like, oh my lord, this is fantastic. One of the craziest things, though, about his ability is the fact that he can ruin, so he tested it on all the different body parts. He's like, okay, what if I say half die? What if I put it on your foot? What if I put it on your hand? And they all ended up dying, but when he did it on the eyes, it just turned the dude blind. And this dude had eyes ripped out, new eyes put in, was turned into a vampire, and none of that would fix the instant death magic's curse, and that is insane. Like, in theory, nothing can override instant death magic. Now, they say, like, oh, hey, like, there's this instant death shield sort of a thing, like, but it's like, no, there ain't nothing working against. Like, Tagato is pretty much just, like, he's a one-man army, and the idea of walking through an isekai environment where it feels like everything about this world wants you to take it seriously, and then there's a man with his switch and his wannabe girlfriend who basically is like, hey boyfriend, I don't like how that guy looked at me. Can you kill him? I don't want, okay. Boom, dead, back to Monster Hunter. It's just so unhinged, and I love the idea that it's more or less a comedy first and foremost, and while there might be serious aspects and character arcs down the line, as it stands, I'm just here for the lulz. I'm here for the badassery and just the fact that I can't take this show seriously, and it's so fun because of that. And while I don't think the animation is like the craziest animation or the best animation that you're gonna see in an isekai, the one thing I will give it major praise is it's a very consistent looking show, and the character models are very sharp and pop out. The thing that actually caught my eye the most visually this episode is when you think of like dark scenes, like a night scene in an anime, I feel like the character models are a lot more dim. They blend into the environment to the point that they're not as noticeable unless there's like a street light or something obviously lighting them up. But when I saw the night scene in this episode, like they were popping out visually, like you kept seeing them very crystal clear, and I appreciate that because a lot of anime make their night scenes way too dark for me personally, and as someone who doesn't really prefer night scenes in anything, whether live action or their animated counterparts, I mean, I just really enjoy how it looked. Like, it almost, in some ways, like, sometimes the character models remind me of Talentless Nana, if anyone's seen that. Like, visually, sometimes the effects for the animation do look pretty cool, but in general, it feels like a consistent show that's not trying to stretch itself too thin, so when bigger moments do pop up, like a giant robot and a dude with a sword, we can have some pretty cool moments that don't overstay their welcome, but never look mediocre either. I don't know, there's something about this show that on paper should be the most average, boring show, yet it's just so fun because the One Punch Man of Isekai just is an absolute ride and a half. I mean, the biggest thing for me is just wondering, like, what if there is any limitation for our MC, and maybe at this point the only limitation is his uncertainty of what he can and can't do, because once he probably has full understanding, I mean, everyone beware and be in for a scare, because I don't think he's stopped. Like, you can't stop him. I really feel like this is on paper the most OP thing you could give a character next to anything you believe or think becomes reality. Like, that could maybe beat him or something is a possibility, but it's like, it's up there for the most insane thing I've ever seen in an anime series, and I'm so glad it's a comedy series more often than not, because if this was a show trying to take itself seriously from the get-go with how it's presented things, it would just become a comedy accidentally, but because it's almost like a parody, it just works so well, at least for me. But let me know what you thought of episode 2, because I definitely feel like episode 2 sold me on the show a bit more than episode 1 did, but let me know what you're feeling down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more of the channel, and like I mentioned, we have a full live reaction over on my Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, you also get a video shout out. So today we have Talon, Honto, Tony Neal, Bassman280, Waka, and Merc. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.